I see live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Navigate the Rapids broadcast. Today is January 30th, 2015. My name is Will Hankey. Today we're going to be talking about something I think a lot of people maybe overlook, and that's email marketing. My guest today is Tom Ruwitch, founder and president of MarketVolt, one of the Midwest's leading interactive technology and marketing firms. He serves as the company's lead consultant for clients who seek website, email, social media, and other marketing guidance. Tom is an experienced web developer, copywriter, and direct response marketer. He's especially adept at helping businesses coordinate their online and offline marketing efforts. He's experienced designing and executing marketing plans for small business, startups, and publicly traded companies. Tom, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Will. A great pleasure.
Very excited to have you on today. And like I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people still, even today, don't realize the power behind simple email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty crazy. So.
Yeah, I agree. We hear that old cliche that email marketing is dead, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah. So before we jump in and start asking a lot of questions, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got started with MarketVolt?
Sure. It was about 14 years ago. It was way back in 2001, before a lot of people had even heard of email marketing. And I had come out of a media background. I'd been a newspaper reporter for a long time, worked in the online side of the newspaper industry as well as the print side. And it wasn't as if I invented email marketing. I'm not going to complain or claim to have invented the internet the way some political guy did a few years ago. But I got onto the idea of email and its marketing potential because what I really recognized was the best way to connect buyers and sellers was to do so through interactive technologies, and email was certainly an established and emerging one at that point. The old media models, the old media advertising models, were plop an advertisement in some page of a newspaper or a billboard or some space in a television ad, hope people see that, and then hope people act and buy and so forth. But the internet, email, certainly back in that day, was all about having conversations and connecting buyers and sellers in a much more interactive way. And I saw that back in 2000 or so when I conceived of MarketVolt, and we built it, and over time the power and the potential of email has emerged and has continued to really be an important force in how buyers and sellers connect.
Yeah. So, were you still working when you started the MarketVolt thing? I mean, were you still working for the as a reporter, or?
I had left the newspaper and was involved in an internet startup called Sports Huddle. We had built software for the newspaper industry to collect and publish high school and amateur sports statistics. And we built that company up and raised some money, built it from me and my other co-founder to about 85 people, and sold it in 2000. And it was in that time from 2000 to 2001 that I was working on the next thing and developed the idea for MarketVolt and built it.
Oh, that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard of the Sports Huddle thing. It's been quite a while, but very cool. So you mentioned earlier about email being dead. So that's not the case, you say?
Not the case at all. I mean, it's been sort of this myth that, or this line that emerges over the years. And when RSS feeds came out on websites, oh, that's going to kill email. And certainly when social media came along, oh, that's going to kill email. And the reality is, email is still an enormously important part of all of our lives. 95% of the people on the internet have email accounts, and 90% of the people who have who have email accounts check their email compulsively, multiple times a day, hourly sometimes. And there's a stat that I saw in a study that the same study that said 95% check compulsively. 8% of the people in that survey said they will check their email minutes or moments after they have sex. It's kind of a crazy stat. I
Interesting.
hope for your loved one's sake that you are not among that 8%. But and I share it not to gross people out and to you know make this too R-rated, but I share that stat to emphasize the idea that people are checking their email. And you have an opportunity to be in front of them. And if you're not emphasizing email as part of the marketing mix, you're missing the opportunity to have those conversations and be in front of audiences. And the numbers are not shrinking. The return on investment, the number of people using email, the amount of revenue generated by email, that's not going down. It's if anything, going up.
Yeah, yeah. I would say of all the ways of communicating, that by far email is the one I use the most and compulsively check the most often. I don't log into Twitter and see what somebody said in the last 10
Right.
minutes, and I mean I am running a business. However, most people, well, okay, all the people that want to communicate with me either pick up the phone and call me, or they send me an email.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to shoot me a message on Twitter or Google Plus or something.
Right, right. Yeah, it's true. It just remains an essential element of our daily lives, both in our lives as consumers and our lives as business people. So the tool works in different ways for different segments, B2B versus B2C, but it's equally effective because we're active in email as consumers, we're active in email as business people, and so the medium is important in both segments of business.
Yeah, yeah. So your business, what is an ESP, and why should businesses use one for email marketing?
Yeah, so ESP is an acronym that stands for Email Service Provider. And fundamentally, there are many businesses, MarketVolt, my company is among them, that are in that category. And the service is software, typically web-hosted software. You have an account. You can log into the account. And you can use the account for the following things: to store and segment your lists. It has a built-in database for you to manage your lists and segment them into categories. Creating content where you don't have to be a HTML, a web expert. You can create content that's compelling and branded and easy with basic word processing skills to do so. Sending the email with confidence. If you try to send bulk email to multiple people and do it from your own computer, chances are you're not going to get many of them through, and chances are that over time your internet service provider will say stop doing it or we're going to cancel your account.
Yeah, yeah.
And so sending with confidence that the emails will get through to the inbox is very important. And finally, the ability to track and then automate. So email service providers have systems that track who opened your emails, who clicked which links, who forwarded them, and then depending on the system, there is automation that can follow, automatically segmenting your list, automatically sending follow-ups, and our system has a lot of those capabilities. And so why is it so important to use an ESP? It just makes it easier to do all of those things and removes the headache and hassle of processing bounces, of making sure your emails are getting through. You're paying a service to make sure it gets done.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth paying someone, instead of trying to do that on your own, because even if you're smart enough to keep a database and all that kind of stuff, you're just not going to keep up with it. Especially if you're trying to grow your list, it's just going to become more and more of a problem.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that people understand when you and I are using the term pay someone, you're paying for the software that helps you do it yourself. The key thing is you're still creating the emails, you're still pressing send, it's still your name on top of the email, it's you doing the work. The software just makes the work so much easier and makes the results so much better. You're paying for that system that that does the work for you. Now, in some cases, companies like ours provide the services too. So if you don't want to do the work yourself, you can hire our consultants or our experts to help you. Some companies do that. Some ESPs do it. Some ESPs don't. So that's there are different subcategories within the space in terms of service, but
Right.
ESP broadly refers to the software.
Well, thanks for clarifying that up. I appreciate that. So let's talk about somebody who wants to create their own email campaign. What are some of the successful keys that they need to put in place?
Yeah, the first is planning. If you don't go into it with a plan, you are bound to fail. So many businesses will get into email marketing, and this principle applies also to social media or any other marketing tactic. They'll say, we have to do this for whatever reason.
We
And
have to
then,
be out on Twitter. We have to be there because we heard. We have to be
yeah,
there.
yeah. Why are you doing it? Well, my competitor is doing it, or my boss told me to do it. That's a good one. Um, you know, understand why you're doing it. What are you trying to achieve? What are the business goals? How are you going? What are you going to say, and why? And we have a planning process that we can help our clients go through. Don't have a whole lot of time to focus on that today on the call, but the key thing is typical scenario is a business says, oh, around the first of the month, every month, I'm going to send an email newsletter, or every Monday, weekly, or every second Monday, just some periodic approach. And then more often than not, businesses will get to about the 30th or 29th of the month, 2 or 3 days in advance of the deadline, and the person responsible is thinking, what the heck am I going to write this month? And
Right.
it's a hassle. It doesn't work, um, and you're blowing an investment. So without planning, you're going to fail. So that's thing number one.
Okay.
Thing number two is with email marketing, you really want to focus on getting permission from the people you're going to contact. You don't want to scrape together a list from a business directory or some chamber guide or visiting people's websites and just pulling emails off. You don't want to buy lists and just begin to pound people over and over again with spam. What you want to do is give people reasons to raise their hand and join your mailing list by providing valuable tips on your website and drawing people to your website and giving people a reason to sign up, by asking them explicitly when you meet them at networking events or if you speak, handing out a sign-up sheet. There are all sorts of list-building tactics, but the key thing is that you're having a conversation with people who have said, hey, Will, I want to hear from you, or hey, Tom, I want to hear from you. And that's a good segue into the third point. The reason they want to hear from you is you're providing value. If all you do is pitch, they'll tune out, because people who are in an audience you're trying to connect with, only the smallest percentage of those people are ready buyers, are really on the verge of a buying decision. And if you're talking to the 99% who are not on the verge of a buying decision, and all you're doing is saying, here's the latest deal, buy now, they're tuned out. But if you're providing useful information, tips, interesting information, they'll continue to read, they'll forward, they'll share, so forth. So three points very quickly summarized. Plan, build the list with permission, and provide value in your emails, and you'll be successful.
Yeah, to the point of providing value, I just helped one of my clients get set up to start sending out normal newsletters. You know, they were very sporadically, accidentally sending them out every once in a while.
Right.
Usually when somebody at a chamber meeting said, you know, something along the lines of newsletter, and that, oh, we got to get our newsletter out. Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, so we set it up, and I got it all ready for him to send one out, and you know, of course, in this business owner's minds, in his mind, it's you know, let's talk about the sale. Here's what our latest sale is this month.
Right.
okay, we could probably do that. I'm going to put a couple blogs in there, things like that, to break it up a little bit.
Hmm.
So we send that one out. 2 weeks later, hey, we need to do another one because there's the new sale coming, and we really need to push that.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of business owners, even when they get that far down, they still think that they just need to push out sales all the time.
Yeah, and it just it doesn't work over time, because if you're providing content that people see as irrelevant or too pitchy, they will begin to tune out. So your open rates will decrease. Your opt-out rates, people saying take me off your list, will increase, and your spam complaint rates will increase. People will click that, hey, this is spam button that they have in their email software, even if they signed up and gave permission. If
Yeah.
your emails are annoying them, they'll click the spam button, and then as a result, you'll have even more trouble getting email through, because some of the filters may think you're spamming, because people are complaining about your emails. So keep it relevant, and provide value.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what happened too. We started getting all these unsubscribes,
Yeah,
and of course,
yeah,
then he's calling me. This wasn't happening before. Well, you weren't sending anything before, so there's nothing to unsubscribe to.
right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
I have a blog, Will, blog.marketvolt.com, and I forget how recently it was. It's probably today the third or fourth most recent blog post, and I know this will be archived, so people may have to go find it. But it talks about the headline on the blog post is something like is your email too pitchy, or something like that. And the point of the post is that in a survey of marketing people, B2B people, or not marketing people, but in a survey of businesses, um, the respondents said that marketing fails to sway them because they feel it's too pitchy. So the
yeah,
communications they receive come in and are too pitchy. Now, the key thing to remember is that you still can pitch. It's okay to pitch. You just have to be selective and discriminate about how you do it and when you do it.
yeah. I went back to him and said, you know what, we got to switch this up. We need to provide value, basically,
Hmm.
as you said, and then, oh, by the way, we're having a sale. And I think that approach is working much better, a lot less unsubscribes, things of that sort.
Yeah, and one of the ways to think about it is um, the emails that you're sending are always opportunities for you to prospect and identify your best folks. Um, and because you're able to know who opens your emails and who clicks. So a great example that we use is the example of a music store, a bricks and mortar music store. And within that database, let's say 1,000 people who have signed up for the email list, you might only have 100 people who have any interest in classical music. A lot of rock and roll fans, a lot of blues fans, whatever, but only 100 people interested in classical music. So if for whatever reason you have classical CDs on sale, and you begin to pitch that sale to 1,000 people, you're hitting 900 people who don't give a hoot about
Yeah,
it. And a lot of those 900 people are going to tune out and be annoyed. So what can you do? In a newsletter, you can have a little bit of everything for everybody. That's a core principle of a newsletter. If you're sending it to the whole list, hit hit everybody's interests. A little bit of everything for everybody. A little bit of rock and roll, little bit of jazz, little bit of classical. And the classical thing could have a link. Read the interview with the new conductor of the symphony orchestra, and then pay attention who's showing interest in your stuff about classical music. People who click are obviously interested in classical music, and over time you can begin to build segments in your database. And even immediately following that newsletter, you could say, if somebody clicks that link, I'm going to send them a coupon for my classical music sale. And you're hitting maybe only 15, 20, 30 people, but those 30 people are really going to be happy to get that coupon and are going to come into the store. And meanwhile, you're not annoying 900 people who clearly won't have any interest in that.
right. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's definitely interesting. So a business, I'm sorry, a music store is a great kind of B2C way of doing things. How about B2B, and does it work the same?
Sorry about the phone, by the way.
That's okay.
We were
That
talking before we started, and you were talking about in these meetups, you got to turn off all the noise and the
yeah,
background
yeah.
stuff, and
It adds to the ambiance.
I'm a working person, and the phone is ringing off the hook here at Market Vault. So,
That's
um,
good. It's like the telethon with all the phones ringing in the background.
yeah, it is so darn busy here. And so, you were asking about B2B. Um,
Yeah.
it works in similar ways. And we were talking about the myth of email being dead. We hear all the time from B2B people, well, I'm not going to sell some $5,000 piece of equipment or some consulting engagement that's worth thousands and thousands of dollars on an email. And that's probably true. In many B2B businesses, sales are going to get done with face-to-face and direct consultation in the same way that sales were being made 10 or 20 years ago. But the path to the sale can be significantly different. Who do you call, or how do you get to a meeting? You might have, again, 1,000 people in your Rolodex, and the old style sales hustle would be knock on every door on every floor, call people over and over and over again, cold call until you break through and get yourself to 10 meetings. Well, with email marketing, we talk about the concept of separating prospects from suspects. You can send an email that has something about a particular product need. I'll take an example from a printing company with which we work. They do standard printing stuff, and the people in their database are all interested in the standard printing, but they also have a very specialized product that's expensive and very niche, and that's counterfeit proof printing that has a seal in it that, it was for things that, you have to verify that this is in fact the thing.
Right.
Um, that company in its email newsletter included last January, in advance of the Super Bowl, an article about how around the Super Bowl, the idea of secure printing is really important because you have the mementos and the photos and the programs, and for collectors you have to use secure printing technology to verify that this is the official program, not a counterfeit knockoff.
Right.
And so they shared that article, or they linked to an article, and what they recognized strategically is the people who are clicking through on that article are interested in the concept of secure counterfeit proof printing, and those are the people that our sales reps can call or email directly and say, hey, I wondering whether you saw that article we had in our newsletter. We offer a service like that, and I was wondering if you were interested. Well, they're going to get to a sales meeting or get through on the telephone much more quickly and much more effectively. That way, they'll get to their 10 meetings or their 20 meetings or their 30 meetings much more quickly by identifying prospects based on who's clicking on an email than if they just called 1,000 people in a course of a month or whatever it would take, or start knocking on doors randomly. It's a very efficient way to identify your prospects by sending valuable and interesting information and paying attention to who's showing interest, then following up.
Yeah. And we're going to have John Ayers on here in a couple of weeks about cold
Yep.
calling. And the great thing about the email is it's non-intrusive. So it shows up when you're ready to open it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But even, we've worked with John. John's a great teleprospector. And what we've done with campaigns with John, yeah, it's a cold call in many cases. But what we'll do, the primary call to action might be, I'm calling on behalf of so-and-so, and we'd like to set up a meeting. And people will say, not interested, but we'll have a secondary call of action. Would you like some free report? Could we get your email to send you something that you would value? And then they'll say yes at much higher rates than sure I'll take a meeting. So for every person who takes a meeting, you might have 30 people who give you their email address.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we track who clicks or who opens the email, and we invest in another phone call to those people because now they said no at first, but they got my thing, and they'll pick up the phone, and you get additional action on the backside. Or it might not even be John doing the follow-up call. It might be the business person directly or the sales rep. So this idea of knowing who your prospects are because you can track who's opening your email and they've welcomed the email, who opened the email, who clicked on the link, they're showing interest. They're more likely to answer the phone because they know you and have paid attention to your content, and they're more likely to take that next step, sales meeting, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it's interesting how they say no, but then you see them opening the emails, and that's actually something I've heard you talk about before, is kind of marketing to the maybes. What
Yeah,
do you mean by that?
Well, if you think about putting a marketing message in front of, again, 1,000 people, that small percentage of people who are ready buyers, who in sales we talk about the person who has the need and the authority and the resources to make the purchase. And all three of those things have to be converging at the moment that you're putting a marketing message in front of a person in order for that person to say, okay, I'm buying.
Right.
Then you may also have the opposite spectrum. Those are the yeses. You have the opposite spectrum. I have no need. I have no interest. I have no desire. I'm happy with whom I'm with, or I know you and I don't want your product. The flat out no's. Okay, you won't move them. They're not coming around.
Right.
But that whole spectrum in between is the maybes. And if in your marketing, whether it's a print piece or a teleprospecting script or a billboard or a television ad, if you provide some way for the maybes to raise their hand, it's not yes, I'll buy. It's sure, I'll give you my email address for a free report or for something of value, or I'll text 12345 to enter a contest and then reply with my email address when the text asks me to get an additional something. The maybes, if you can get them to raise their hand so that they'll give you your email address and you can then begin to engage them with ongoing valuable content, you'll convert more sales over time. It's as simple as that. The bigger your email list, the more sales you'll convert over time. It may not be tomorrow, but it will happen. And so thinking of your marketing communications, your advertising and so forth, as an opportunity not just to jump to pleased to meet you, will you buy, but pleased to meet you, will you buy, and I thought I turned the phone off.
Somebody's
Here we
looking
go.
outside your window saying, haha, he didn't turn it off. Let's get him again.
Yeah, I'm taking the phone off the hook now. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, folks.
That's okay.
What I was saying before is if you think of your marketing communications as not just pleased to meet you, will you buy, but pleased to meet you, can we begin a conversation, which is what you're really asking the maybes, you're going to have great success in your marketing communications.
Yeah, I think it's something huge that I've kind of started steering a lot of my clients towards. You know, with hey, let's offer some sort of a free checklist. Let's offer top 7 tips or something like that they can give an email address, they can pull it down, and that there's no sales pitch involved. It's purely just giving them a piece of value, and it's something that they can consume very quickly. It's not an ebook where they have to, it's a 200-page ebook where they're just going to give up 3 pages in, but that has made the entire list building process a lot simpler.
Yeah, we have one on our blog, on the sidebar of our blog website, 10 secrets to write subject lines that sell. And you enter your name, you enter your email address, and you get a 2-pager with 10 quick tips. And if you're doing any email marketing, this is going to be valuable to you. And from our perspective, marketing our business, the person who is thinking about how can I make my emails more effective is the person we want to be talking with and we want to provide value to. So what follows that opt-in is a follow-up email telling them a little bit more about our company, telling them a little bit more about the value we'll provide if they stay on the mailing list. Here are more tips, here's what you can expect. And over time, many of those who sign up for that free report ask for demos, sign up for the software, become customers.
Yeah, and this is all automated, right? They click on the link on the side of your blog, fill out their email address, and it automatically emails them. It does this automatically, right?
Yeah, and in fact, the way that we start to talk about the product, this balance between pitching and value, is we say, hey, by the way, here's an email thanking you. Thank you very much for downloading the thing. We hope you find it valuable. We'll continue to send you some stuff. By the way, this email was sent to you automatically. Setting up automated marketing processes is a really important thing for you to do as a business. That's a tip.
Oh,
Setting
nice.
up automated marketing processes is a way to help grow your business. And here's how I did it. And the here's how I did it is beginning to describe our system, our software. So we're establishing that relationship. We're providing value. You just got some tips, but we work our way into pitching. So it goes back to that point I made before. It's not that you should never talk about your products and services and be afraid to pitch. You just have to do it in a context where it's going to be welcomed and where it makes sense and it's not overkill and irrelevant. So
yeah. So another thing I've heard you talk about is separating the prospects from the suspects.
Yeah.
Can you explain that concept and how it applies to email marketing?
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before, this idea of link tracking and in a B2B or B2C, the paying attention to the classical music fans who click the link. Those are my prospects, and the people who are never opening the email or never clicking, those are the suspects. And part of the idea is that you want to cull your list over time. You don't want to keep pounding emails to people who are showing no interest, and occasionally people will sign up and then just tune out over time. And so in marketing and sales in general, your goal is to have as many conversations with the true prospects who welcome your communications and minimize the amount of time that you're spinning your wheels with the suspects. Now, you can send emails to anybody, and there's not a whole lot of additional cost by sending barely any additional cost if you press send and send it to everybody. But if you send everything to everybody every time without paying attention to separating the prospects from the suspects, what we talked about before, your open rates will go down, your spam complaints will go up, and you'll have less return.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you being on the show today. This has been terrific information.
I'm really, really happy to be here and to have spent some time with you. And it's a great program you have going, and I'm going to continue to tune in. Next time I'm on a hangout with you or anyone else, I'm going to unplug the phone before I start.
Yeah, I think I told you I was on. We did one before with Kathy Sexton, and her cat jumped up on the table and went across the screen. That was fun.
Well, cats do that. That's you can't keep the cats off the keyboard, right?
Right. So tell me how people can find out more about MarketVolt.
Yeah. So first of all, I like communicating one-to-one with people. So if you have a direct question or want to reach out to me, you can reach me at tom@marketvolt.com. And MarketVolt is spelled market, M-A-R-K-E-T, V as in voltage, O-L-T, marketvolt.com, tom@marketvolt.com. Our website that talks about our products and our services and has resources on it is marketvolt.com. The blog that I mentioned, that's marketing tips of all sorts, not just email marketing, but all things, is blog.marketvolt.com. And we have a new thing that I wanted to encourage people to check out, and that's called 5in25.com. The number 5, IN 25, number 25.com, 5in25.com. The idea there, it's a webinar series, 5 powerful marketing tips delivered in just 25 minutes. We typically do it middle of the day, so you can grab a bite to eat, sit at your computer, and in 25 minutes we cover all sorts of cool stuff, tips for B2B marketing, B2C marketing. So check out the site. We have a different slate of webinars at different times. If you hit 5 in 25, you'll see what we have. Always free, always 25 minutes.
And can people go back and see the previous ones that you guys have done?
We have things archived in different places, and we're working on that. For now, the best way is to sign up for one. If you can't attend at the date that you see when you hit the link, sign up and you'll get a video. You'll get a link after the date that it runs with a video for an archive. Yep.
Which is what a lot of people do. They'll sign up for the webinar and know that the recording will come later.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you being on the show today. MarketVolt is a wonderful system. I've got several clients who use it as well, and I really appreciate the tips on the segmenting and the marketing to the maybes. Those were terrific.
Thanks, Will. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone, for watching the show today. My name's Will Hankey. Hopefully we've helped you today navigate the rapids of business a little better. All right. Cool. That was awesome.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry about the phone.
Oh, that's okay. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
I tried to keep it light, right?
Yeah. So for my elite members, I wanted to ask you a couple more quick questions. And I know we've got one written down, but I have one that I get all the time, and I'm sure you get it all the time too. And I'd be interested in hearing your answer. And that is, when is the best time to send an email?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I'm going to answer this in a couple of ways. The first way is to say the best time to send John Doe an email is the time that John Doe likes to open his email. Now, that's a flip response, or it seems so, but there are ways with technology to accomplish that. So in the case of MarketVolt, for example, we talked earlier about sending a follow-up email to people who click to read the article about the classical music. Well, in our system, and I think some other systems can do this, but I'm not sure, we can set it up to say, all right, when Will Hankey clicks the link, or when anybody clicks the link for classical music, send Will Hankey a follow-up email 24 hours later or 48 hours later. And the reason that's key is that Will gets the email on Tuesday, clicks at 1 p.m. on the newsletter because that's his lunch break, and after his lunch break he tends to look at commercial emails.
Yeah.
The follow-up email will hit his inbox at 1 p.m. the next day. Jane Doe, who doesn't like to check commercial email until 8 o'clock at night after she's gotten home, had dinner, settled back in front of her computer, she opens the newsletter at 8 o'clock, clicks the link, 24 hours later, she gets a follow-up email. And you're hitting people's inboxes at the time that they're demonstrating that they open emails. So automating the system in that way is really important.
That's
were probably
cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
You were probably thinking, okay, there are dates. Midday Tuesday, midday Thursday, whatever the case may be.
Those are the questions I get. Should I send my email on Tuesday, or is there a day? Yeah.
Right. What I would say to that is there are conflicting data on it. The data vary depending on the industry. Different for B2C versus B2B. Trust your instincts in certain cases. So if you're involved in dining and in entertainment, clearly hitting people leading up to the weekend, as opposed, when you're asking them to act is important. Think in terms of the turnaround. If what you're pitching or talking about is time bound, you want it to be closer to the time. All of those are more sophisticated, variable things. For B2B businesses, if I had to boil it down, I would say midday Tuesday, mid-morning to mid-afternoon Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday tend to be better than early in the morning or late in the afternoon,
Yep.
when people are trying to settle in or settle out. Mondays and Fridays tend to be a little bit hairy also, because people are in catch-up mode or get out of town mode. B2C, a little bit different. You can experiment with the weekends, and the times can be more variable. What I would suggest is that you test a little bit. Try to minimize the variables in an email. You can even take the same email, split your list in half, and say, I'm going to send it exact same email, exact same subject line, random split on my list, and send Group A at this time, Group B at this time, and see if there's a variance, and go with what works best.
Interesting. And you brought it up about usually it's the middle of the week. And I run that floatmissouri.com, which is all about float trips, things of that sort. The best results that I've had is a Sunday afternoon to Sunday evening. And the only reasoning I can come up with is that over the weekend you get together with people and, hey, let's plan a float trip. And if you hit them Sunday night when everybody's kind of settling back in, it seems to be the best time to get the most traffic.
Yeah, and that's a B2C environment, of course. That's a business talking to consumers, and I said try the weekends. For consumers, you're kind of out of that work mode. You're thinking about your free time. You're in a free time mode on a Sunday afternoon. I can see why that would work for sure. There are some reports that are saying that some B2B email results are getting better on the weekends. So test that also, because I think I'm among the people who carve out some time on the weekends. I try not to check my email persistently over the weekend, but I'll carve out windows over the weekend where I get back into my stuff, and there's actually less noise. There's less competition and less commercial email that's in my inbox. So I find stuff, I read it, I have a little more time and focus. There could be some truth to the idea that even on the business side, the B2B side, hitting people on the weekends actually can generate some better results. Test it.
Yeah. I definitely think that's the case. Without testing, you're just throwing darts at the wall and not knowing any better. So earlier you talked about planning. What are some advanced strategies that the elite members could take that would help them when planning an email campaign?
Sure. I'll kind of give you a rough outline of a content planning exercise that we run clients through.
Okay, great.
Sort of a simple set of content plans. So the first thing we do is we ask them to articulate very, very specific business goals. So without specific and measurable business goals, you're not going to be able to plan what content, or if you are, for what purpose are you writing this versus that? Well, you have to be doing it in service of some goal. So we talked earlier in this hangout about the example of a music store in classical music. So the music store articulates a goal that says, we want to increase sales of classical music over the quarter or the month or whatever it may be by X%. Okay, if they know that goal, they can then begin to plan, and you will have multiple goals, and it may be different for different audiences or different product lines that you have in your business. So start by articulating your goals. That will instruct things you put in the content. Number two, for every audience segment or product line that you have, um, sale of CDs, sale of music equipment in a B2B business, or in our business, for example, email marketing software, email marketing services, strategic consulting. For each one of those product lines, think about 10 to 12 frequently asked questions that you hear from prospects or clients. Think about 10 to 12 should ask questions, the things that people don't think to ask but they probably ought to ask. And
Right.
think about 10 to 12 objections that you get in the sales process. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's too hard. Oh, it's too whatever.
Yeah.
And jot down, don't write an essay, just jot down a one-line answer to that. Put that thing on a bulletin board by your desk and think of that grid of FAQ, SAQ, should ask questions, and objections as, in effect, the topic grid for what's going to go into your emails. This also applies to your blogging.
Yeah. Uh-oh, I think we might have lost you. You still there, Tom? Hello. I think we might have lost you.
Because
You're coming in and out, but the are you there? Are you there?
hello.
Now I hear you.
All right. We just had a little internet hiccup. So,
There you
um,
are. Okay.
yeah. So I'm not sure where we lost the connection, but
You were talking about putting the list together.
yeah. And if you are not answering the questions or addressing the objections in your content, what are you talking about in your content, and for what purpose?
Yeah.
Think about it as a conversation. So there's more that goes from there. But if you simply start by laying out your business goals, outlining frequently asked questions, should ask questions, and objections, the planning process is so much easier. And determining what's going to go in your newsletter and why is so much easier. That's just a start, but I think that begins to get at some good advanced content planning. Do that, you'll be better off.
Yep, that's awesome. Do
Yep.
you recommend a specific frequency for businesses, or is it kind of back to that same other question? Or when do I
Yeah,
send it?
I gave you a flip answer on the when should you send it, and I'll give you an answer that sounds a little flip also, which is if you're putting relevant, interesting, valuable content out there, it's hard to send too much, and if you're putting out irrelevant, boring, overly pitchy content, it's hard to send too little. It's hard to keep people interested at all. Now, that said, I think that most businesses need to be sending emails at least monthly. If you're sending less often than monthly, you run the risk of your audience sort of tuning out, forgetting you, that sort of thing. And certainly if you're doing only quarterly or a couple of times a year, you're really going to have trouble. People forget you're there, their email addresses change, you run the risk of having spam complaints and deliverability problems. And besides that, you're missing an opportunity. If there truly is ROI in email, and there is, why wouldn't you do it more often and make the investment? So email newsletters or newsletters at least monthly, occasional targeted follow-ups in between. So a lot of our clients will have 2, 3, 4 emails a month. That said, there are also people out there, including our friend Josh Turner, who's a LinkedIn expert and a webinar marketing expert, who send emails multiple times a week, and I read them because they're great and they're informative and they're educational and they're funny and all of that.
Yeah.
If you are able to generate good, productive, informative, educational content that an audience is interested in, it's okay to send things every single day if you can do it. But most people don't have the bandwidth to pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one last question for you.
Yeah.
A business that deals with a product that maybe people might buy once every 5 or 10 years. When somebody raises their hand in that sort of a situation and signs up for a newsletter or some sort of action is taken,
Hmm.
Market Volt has autoresponders in place. Would that be the best way, beyond what you mentioned earlier, picking up the phone and reaching out to those people?
Right.
Uh, would it be good to put them into, put a check mark next to this person and send them an email a day for the next whatever days, or every 2 days, or you know what I mean? Just have an ongoing kind of one-sided conversation over a period of time.
Yeah, it's a complicated question that's going to vary by industry,
Okay.
but at the heart of the question is, well, wait a minute, how can I sell a product that people aren't renewing or rebuying? Let's take a car, for example. It's years between purchases.
Yeah, and you got a fish on the hook. What do you do?
Well, yeah. So if somebody comes to your site and fills out a form, that may be somebody who's on the verge of already buying, and you could generate a collection of what we call drip emails or autoresponder emails that that provide information. It could include helpful information about questions to ask as you're looking for financing for a car, or how to make sure that how to judge one. Why does this stat about a car matter versus that stat?
Right.
What is a limited slip differential, or
Right.
who knows? And so providing valuable content that can get the person who's nearly a buyer into your showroom and buying the car. But the equally complex thing is, so they bought the car, why should they continue to open your emails? And what can you do to continue the relationship so that 5 years down the road, pardon me, or 3 years down the road, they're going to buy another car from you? Well,
Right.
um, it goes again back to value. So the what you're selling when you sell a car is not 2 tons of steel and rubber and leather. What you're selling is the outcome. And that's the case in any product or service. So Rosetta Stone doesn't sell language learning DVDs. Rosetta Stone sells travel and adventure and romance.
Right.
Toyota doesn't sell 2 tons of steel and rubber and leather. Toyota sells saving the planet, one extra mile per gallon at a time.
Right.
They sell, Cadillac sells the freedom of being on the open road and, wind blowing through your hair. So let's take the Cadillac example. Having newsletters that talk about travel, or that talk about accessories that make your ride better, or talk about music that you can play on your Bose sound system, and that all are about educating and sharing with people the excitement of enjoying the driving experience.
Right.
Those are things the person will open even if it's 2 years before they're going to buy the next car, and they'll stick with you and buy the next car.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
It did. Yeah. Super.
Okay, good.
I definitely appreciate it.
It always helps if I answer the question that you asked as opposed to.
I don't know what you're talking about. I got no idea.
Whatever. Yeah, but I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll let you get back to work. Go follow up on those phone calls. I definitely appreciate your time today.
Yeah, well, it was a great pleasure. Again, visit me by emailing me, tom@marketvolt.com. Check out the blog.marketvolt.com, the website, marketvolt.com, and 5and25.com for our webinar series.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thanks, Will.
All right.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.